And shifting gears here, 14 News is still your back-to-school headquarters. And today is the first day of school for the Camden City Bulldogs over in Perry County, and also day 2 for EVSC students with last names K through Z and Tell City Schools.
That's right. But of course, with school back in session, Tri-State first responders want to make sure that everyone is staying safe out there on the road. So our Leslie Chapman is joining us live this morning with everything you need to know with students and families back out there on the roads. Good morning, Leslie.
Good morning, Mitch and Casey. You know, it's day 2 of back to school, which is always so exciting. And every year we stress how important back to school traffic safety is. This morning I'm joined with Sergeant Todd Ringel from the ISP, or Indiana State Police. We're going to talk a little bit about what's kind of going on with traffic, some important things people need to know. One of the big things is what to do when you're around a school bus. There's a lot of things that people should know and they probably forget about, especially after it's been summer for a little bit. People haven't had to worry about it. So what are some really big important tips that people need to know, especially when it comes to school buses?
Well, school buses are the safest means of transportation for our children, so we encourage parents, number one, to put their children on those school buses. But unfortunately, we have drivers that violate the stop arm every day. Matter of fact, in the state of Indiana, when schools are in session, normally over 1,000 stop arm violations occur every single day. So we need the children, number one, to make sure that they look both ways before they cross the street. So it's important for parents to chat with their children, express the importance of looking both ways. And then also as a driver, keep in mind that the yellow lights that are flashing on a school bus is the school bus driver's way of telling you that they're about ready to stop, to load or unload children. So when you see a school bus and the lights are flashing yellow, prepare to stop. But once those lights turn red and the stop arm is extended, if that bus is in front of you, you are not allowed to pass that bus. Now, the multiple lane confuses a lot of drivers. Remember, if you're on a multiple lane highway like the Lloyd Expressway and a school bus stops in the westbound lanes and you're behind that bus, you're required to stop. However, if you're in the eastbound lanes and because that barrier is there, you're not required to stop. So it's very important to know when you're required to stop for those school buses. There's no doubt in my mind that very few people purposely pass school buses because they know it's very dangerous. The bottom line is a lot of people are disregarding the stop arm because of distracted driving. They don't pay attention, they don't notice it until the last second, or because they're confused. So please make sure you know when you're required to stop for those school buses.
Yeah, absolutely. And school zones are another thing that are pretty important that people should know about, some different safety tips when they're driving through those. Again, it's something people haven't really had to worry about too much these last couple of months as school's been out, but now we're starting back up. What should they know when they're driving through a school zone?
Absolutely. You know, the school zones in the morning and the afternoon are extremely busy. All the school zones have reduced speed limits, and it's so important for everyone to obey those limits. Granted, a lot of those speed limits may have a flashing yellow sign or other signs that will dictate when that speed limit is in effect, but it's important to slow down. It takes one crash for a tragedy to occur. You know, kids are very excited to go back to school. They're running. They're not crossing the street sometimes when they're supposed to. So again, we need to do our part, slow down, watch for those kiddos, and then also distracted driving continues to be a problem. You know, every year in the school zones, we see parents that are transporting their children to schools on their phones. We just can't stress enough the importance of putting those phones down and driving responsibly. School zones are extremely busy and we want everyone to be safe, so please reduce your speed and put those phones down.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll be talking more to Sergeant Ringel a little later at 6:30 this morning, so make sure you stay watching for that. We'll talk a little bit more about some other traffic safety tips that you need to know during back-to-school season. But for now, I'll send it back to you, Mitch and Casey. Reporting in Newburgh, Leslie Chapman, 14 News.